you know, basically Schoenwald is, the only healthy tight end who got preseason work in, who's a natural tight end. That must be an interesting situation to manage. How do you approach, maybe getting a little thin at that position?
Well, we have to prepare. Obviously, Braden and Joel, and support Gavin that way, and then also work through our receiver depth too. And the good thing is Chris Pierce is a guy physically that has traits that he can do a lot of things for you. So finding ways to use him and to feature him in different ways, I think is another part of it.
Speaking of the tight end situation, what are you hoping to see from Gavin Schoenwald this weekend, in the absence of Bresnahan, him being a guy that's been on the team, but he's never, recorded a stat?
Yeah, I mean, Gavin needs to play to Gavin's potential and within his, role to impact winning. He doesn't need to try to be Ben or be different, do things outside of, what the offensive staff is asking those guys to do. I'm excited for him. He's earned the chance to play a lot of snaps. He's been one of our best workers and has a winning mindset, and he'll have a good time out there mixing it up. But he doesn't need to press or try to do anything outside of his skill set. Just needs to really do well with his job and impact winning through that.
And a couple of players were talking earlier this week about how they felt like they underestimated ETSU of being an FCS team and having that label. How do you avoid a similar type of thing against Colorado State, and how do you strike that balance of believing that you're going to win a game but not being so too cocky about it, I guess?
Well, I think that is indicative of a mindset that has to shift here, right? I mean, that's we're not in a position where we can underestimate anybody. I think that speaks a lot to, the level of competitive maturity we're after here, and I think that's one of the great learning moments of Saturday is, that at this level, no matter who you're playing, you have to be dialed into the details, and it's not just about showing up and an opponent cooperating in a loss. I mean, they're gonna give you their best shot, and that's what we expect. So, that again, that's certainly not embedded in the messaging that we have as a team. We have respect for every opponent we play. We understand that each opponent will have a plan to win against us, and that we will have a plan to win against them, and we'll measure results off the execution of that plan. We have to mature competitively to understand that we're never entitled to an outcome, and it's going to take our best effort every time we're on the field.
With Joey Lynch having been at Colorado State last year, do you think that it's an advantage for you guys to have him being the one calling plays?
I don't know. I mean, it's obviously helpful to have his knowledge base here of Colorado State and, kind of his experience there. But, I don't know that him calling plays necessarily gives us a distinct advantage other than, that's the guy on our staff that we feel like is best equipped to put the offense in good positions on game day as a play caller. So I wouldn't go beyond that with respect to, the fact that we're at Colorado State. I do appreciate what he's been able to share with respect to his experience there. That's been helpful.
Is there anything?
I noticed Amir, I don't know if he played like an actual offensive snap, although I think he did get on special teams. Is going deeper into the wide receiver group something, like an adjustment you want to make? And I guess why, I think it was a little surprising that he didn't play considering his past contributions. Why was he not, on the field more like offensively?
Well, I think to the first part of your question, we're absolutely interested in building into wide receiver depth, and we have other guys that can contribute to winning in that room, and they've earned the right to do it. I think Amir is someone who I would put in that category, but also think Amir has to keep pushing himself to his highest level. I mean, you know, he needs to find a level of performance and a level of consistency within performance, where he's every day showing exactly what he brings to the table, and that's as a big body guy that can be a strong finisher at the catch point. Those are things that we need to see kind of every day exemplified in his work. And I think he's improved since fall camp. I think through fall camp, he started to kind of get himself going in the right direction. And now whatever the opportunities are that he gets, he needs to take full advantage of. But, just like at any position, we're not, I think we're looking to build out depth. I think we're looking to involve people that have earned the right to play, but also feel like it's, it's important, particularly with where we are in, needing to focus on the details of execution and needing to make sure that we're taking ownership over our processes in an effort to have a winning result. I think it's important as coaches that we honor the guys that are again exemplifying that every day, and that the ones that aren't, we're finding ways to redirect their energy so that they can be out there.
Is there anything that Lynch does differently as a play caller that Rye didn't do, or that you're looking for, that you think that he brings to the table?
Well, there's an experience that we think is beneficial to us, sequencing plays, and just it's a it's a skill. I mean, it's a skill just like anything. So every play caller is going to be subtly different, but nothing specifically that like necessarily that David Rye wasn't doing in that role. It's just like anything. You have this, you have a staff, and you have different seats on the bus, and you're just trying to make sure the pieces are in the right place. And again, with that receiver group being a group that we want to feature in our offense, they need the full attention of their coach. And so it was kind of the right mix and the right parts in the right places.
I think I heard you on the radio say something about in the RPO game, like the formula of when to throw the ball versus hand it off. Is that just do you guys have a different way of deciding that, or something pretty specific there, or is that just kind of your word that you use to describe it in that specific situation? I just was curious about that.
Yeah, no, it's pretty typically that you have a read, you have a read pre-snap and a read post-snap, and RPO is, in a lot of ways, can be triple option football, right? You can give the ball, you can pull the ball, you can throw the ball out on the perimeter, and so there's a post-snap read, but there's also like a pre-snap awareness. And a lot of times pre-snap, you're talking about what is the box count, or what is the perimeter count, like where is the leverage of the defense. And so the throws become appealing when you outnumber the defense. So for example, in the first drive on Saturday, we threw a ball out to Will Shepherd on a bubble that got blown up and should have been intercepted for a touchdown. They had 3 players out there on 3. And so we have an unaccounted, because we're throwing the ball to one of our 3, and that means you have 2 blockers and you're short. Yeah. That's a bad count. We're not wanting to put the ball out in that. They could have 3 guys out there leveraged differently. They could have them deeper, or one inside, outside, one deep, in which case the leverage may tell us that it's still a good play. But when you're just setting 3-on-3, you're going to either want to give that ball or pull it, depending on what the play design calls for. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. I think as a quarterback, there is a formula, right, that you're in the moment asked to execute. And inevitably in a game, you're not going to make every decision perfectly right, and in those cases, you want to err on the side of giving the ball, right? Let's just run it and see if we can puncture through for 3 yards, 4 yards. when you start putting the ball in the air to guys with unblocked players on top of them, you're rolling the dice in the wrong way, you know. So we have to be a little bit better with respect to understanding that area of the game. And then when it comes down to it, don't press. You know, don't make an unnecessary pull of the ball because you're pressing to make a play. You know, stick to that formula, because over time that'll allow rhythm to happen on the offense.
Is it fair to say that that is an area where, you know, there could be improvement throughout the season just based on getting more experience with it? Because I think 2 years ago, I know Steels and Wright weren't here then, but they, you know, almost no RPO, maybe a little bit last year, but it seems like, you know, that's much more of what you guys are looking to do rather than what they've done in the past. I would think that there would be, you know, an adjustment process naturally there.
Yeah, and I would maybe go further with that. I think there's going to be improvement. You know, it's sometimes hard, particularly when you experience what we experienced last weekend, to find what the positives are. And you know, I mean, for anyone who's you know, sought achievement in any area, you know, for all of us, right, whether it's in our, you know, our profession or our sports career, you know, you hit setbacks, and sometimes the setbacks are the things that drive you forward. I mean, I think some of the most formative moments in my career have been also the most disappointing. I learned more from my inability to do things at a high level than I do celebrating my, you know, what makes me special or whatever. You understand what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
my point being that, like, in Saturday, you know, over the course of whether it's an RPO read or whether it's a boot read or whether it's the way, you know, we're picking up a twist and how we communicate that, you know, what we lacked in urgency on Saturday and detail on Saturday, we got exposed. So the preparation this week has been on, at the quarterback position, getting the ball in play. You know, you mentioned on Saturday after the game, you asked about some of the more the touch throws on the fades and stuff like that. You know, we have favorable matchups and favorable numbers. A good offensive operation is taking advantage of those and capitalizing on chunk gains. And what is a good offensive operation? It's a receiver that understands the nuanced detail. Not, I mean, I say nuance, just the fundamental detail of running the route. It's stack on the vertical release, stack the DB so that I have kind of the fade line to adjust the ball. For the quarterback, it's putting the ball in position to be caught. In the RPO or read game, it's getting the ball into the space. You know, how do we get the ball into space? You know, we're not trying to be, you know, particularly like tricky. You know, we're just trying to get the ball where the defense isn't, and hopefully get a rhythm established. And anyways, it's kind of a long-winded answer to your question, but I feel like with each exposure, we'll get closer to understanding what the optimal execution is. And I think within that, it's, you know, coming out of the game, and this kind of is to Arya's question too earlier, is just this awareness from everyone involved, coach to player, that, you know, what we're not urgent about in practice becomes a point of exposure on Saturday. And sure, there may be a game that comes where the opponent has a bad day, but like, that's not why we play. You know, we play to maximize our potential, not to wait on the opponent to, you know, allow for our mistakes to go unnoticed. So yes, I expect our experience to, you know, our performance will improve as our experience deepens, and that'll be in every area of our performance.
This certainly could be nothing. I don't know. It's a little bit of a shot in the dark. Is Cam Johnson good to go for Saturday?
He is. He was battling a little illness early in the week, and he was back yesterday, and you know, he's fine.